And she takes ball one to begin game one of this three-game series. Megan Rabin, the home plate umpire, John Baca at first, and Christina Drum, the officiating crew for this weekend. Madison Fisher is able to induce a strike. Got her to swing around as we take a look at the stats for Ava Carroll. 381 on the season. One of the promising sophomores in a young class for Washington. This is a really young team. They rely so heavily on their freshman and sophomore classes, but she's on a 4-game hit streak, and she's been setting the tone for this Washington offense at the top of the lineup. Looks at foul, 2 balls, 2 strikes. And Fisher last started against California Baptist. It was a short stint, just 2 innings. Gave up 1 hit, 1 strikeout in just 24 pitches. Just trying to warm up for this weekend. And she just misses the outer part of the zone. Some groans from the fans. A good showing here today between these 2 familiar foes. Drifts outside and a leadoff walk for Ava Carroll. A good start for the Huskies to begin this contest. Talked about, Charlize, the familiarity between these 2 programs. When you were on that diamond last year, they were still members of the Pac-12. Now they're members of the Big Ten. Still taking some time for that to settle in.
And the series were always jam-packed with a lot of action. There was a ton of home runs. They always had power hitters on their team. They have a lot of speed. They always have great pitching on the mound. So there's something a little extra that you have to prepare for when you're preparing against Washington. Like I said, both of these teams are postseason contending teams.
Has a chance to make the tag and does. Mujica to Bragg, and Kanaya gets the last laugh as she knocks out Carroll to collect the first out. Now, I do think they will look at this one more time, but the call on the field was out, as that was a dime, and it looked off first glance like Bragg was able to lay the tag in time. But again, they will convene and discuss it. And that's the area, Charlize, of Sophia Mujica's game on the defensive end where she's been trying to grow.
And she hasn't really had the type of repetition that I think she's wanted to have to get her comfortable behind there. But what a great way to start your first series against Washington, to throw out a runner. And honestly, in my opinion, get her out by a few feet. It seemed like, I wonder if they're looking at the obstruction of Kanaya's foot, or maybe seeing if she was able to swim around it. So maybe that's what they'll talk about. But Sophia Mujica getting the start today on a Friday is able to just put her mark at the beginning of the game.
So they're coming over to talk to Kelly Anoy Perez, disseminating the information. And they are going to overturn the call. And so Ava Carroll is ruled safe. A successfully stolen base for Washington sets them up in early scoring position with nobody away. As now the infield is having a word with Megan Rabin as well, as John Baca is heading over to take a look at the VAR. Here's one more look. Question is, did she get that right hand underneath before the tag was made? There needed to be indisputable evidence to overturn the call. The umpires believed that there was.
And the umpire made a signal for obstruction call with his hands, so I'm guessing that that's what they're trying to look at with Kanaya's feet, seeing if her foot is in the base path when she's receiving it.
One more look from the wide angle.
That foot landing is in the base path of the runner. You could argue that when she caught the ball, her foot still wasn't down. So she's not in the base path, per se.
So you're saying that if Kanaya Bragg's left foot was a little bit more inward and allowed for that base path running opportunity, that it would have been an easier decision to make?
I think it would have been an out call, just because in that instance, the runner did have to kind of deviate and go around the tag. So yeah, I think they are looking at her foot placement. But you don't usually see this from the shortstop position. Yeah, I assume that's what they're looking at, and that a strong argument could be made for either side, just depending on if the umpire thinks that that foot was down in the position to deviate the runner.
And it's a great point you bring up, and John Baca, he has seen enough, scribbling down the ruling, and don't want to over-exaggerate here, but this is a big call. I know it's early in the game, but the way that these two pitching staffs have performed this year, and they say there was no obstruction, and the call stands. Is today April 1st or April 11th? I don't know, but it results in the first out as they took some extra time to look, and they upheld the original call. So now there's nobody on and one out here in the first.
And that was a big call, to your point, Jonah, that if a runner's on second base easily with the ball to the outfield, someone could score. So, and it could be a 1-0 game. They could put up a run in the first inning. So those calls are really big, and it's awesome that Sofia Mojica was able to get it there so early. I think that also went into the call as well. Changes
the equation against Alexis DeBoer, who's been a freshman phenom. We've talked about the number of freshman phenoms on this UCLA roster. The same designation can apply to Alexis DeBoer. Preseason Big Ten players to watch list. Already a Big Ten player of the week recipient already. Grounds it to Bragg, who bobbled it initially and was able to recover in time to collect the second out. She's been so sturdy over at short. Some jitters early on, but was able to gun her down in time.
She's gotten a lot of action.
We've talked about how sometimes the ball has a way of finding you if you're in an important position. We saw that when Kate Blunt took over for her at short during the midweek tilt against CSUN and UC San Diego last week. As Jaden Glab, the starting catcher, who is going to be receiving all of the starting nods behind home plate in this series for Washington. No Tia Durst, who's under the weather, didn't travel with the team to Los Angeles. That is slicing foul down the first base side. 2 balls, 1 strike. And you know that call has to have settled down Addison Fisher a little bit too. You go from a runner in scoring position with nobody out, the base is being cleared, and you can just go to work. As she's evened up the count at 2 apiece.
And that's 101 of having a battery. She walked the batter, and Sofia Mojica was able to pick it up and deliver it out, even though Addison Fisher got a walk. But she was able to clean up that runner for her, and now they're 2 away.
With the rise ball missed upstairs, had that free pitch. Another full count. Judgment pitch, slapped right back up the middle, and a 2-out single for Glab and the Huskies. So read that well, and for Jaden Glab, it's now a hit in 15 of her last 17. Alicia Flores stepping in for her first at-bat. Fisher's been pretty efficient with her pitch count. Still under 20 so far in this first inning as you take a look at the 25 runs driven in for Alicia Flores. Looper, that's going to get down for an infield single. A chance for Bragg, can't make the play. And it's back-to-back base hits for Washington.
Such a tough play, just a fister right behind Addison Fisher. No one could really get to it. Kanaya did a really good job of charging it and trying to get to it, but there really just wasn't any play right there.
And Fisher's a ground ball pitcher, so she induced just the kind of connection that she was hoping for, but it just managed to find a soft spot in the infield. As Giselle Alvarez, an explosive lefty hitter, flies one foul again in Game 3 against Wisconsin. She delivered that game-tying 2-run home run.
Some fun late night action right there. She was able to get some late game action.
One from Fisher. Got the weakly hit ball, and that's going to be interference on Alicia Flores. Savannah Pola was loading up to make the play, and so it keeps at least one runner stranded. Defense works out of the hole. Bottom of the first. Up next, doubles with 16. And it's so impressive. She's on a 6-game hit streak. For her to have batted .241 last season, a significant drop-off from her first 2 years, to spike it back up to one of the best marks in the country. She's able to poke the changeup into the soft gap in left. Just speaks to her experience. It speaks to her resolve and her growth here in Westwood.
Savvy Pola does a really good job of understanding that Sofia Ramuno is going to give you a changeup, at least one or two in every at-bat, especially with a team like this. She loves to go to the changeup, turn it over, change up some speed. She's able to command it very well as well. So Savvy Pola being able to understand that and be able to poke it through and went to a slapping method was really smart on her part to plan to hit that.
Tough spot for her, though, going against Jordan Woolery. Second highest batting average on this UCLA team. 17 home runs, somehow overshadowed by the 18 from her teammate in the on-deck circle, Megan Grant, as Woolery takes a strike for 1-1. So humble, so modest, yet a fierce competitor in the batter's box, having a career season.
And it seems like in any place other than the batter's box, she's always smiling too. You always see her goofing off, smiling with her teammates, just always flashing that smile outside of the batter's box, even sometimes in the batter's box if something happens, but you see that fierce look from her all the time.
Takes the entire way. It drifts high, 3 balls, 1 strike. But takes great pleasure in seeing her teammates succeed, such a rare quality amongst star players, as she influences the first visit into the circle between Jaden Glab and Sofia Ramuno, who appeared in all 3 games against Wisconsin. Huskies swept the Badgers in Seattle.
A lot of late game heroics in that series too, from a couple of different players as well. There was some pinch hit home runs in that series. It was pretty exciting. It felt a lot like you were watching the Pac-12 trying to dominate again.
And it's fitting that we're in Los Angeles, just a few miles away from Hollywood, and the script is set up for Megan Grant, coming off a week in which she blasted 2 grand slams. We saw a walk-off grand slam against Ohio State in Game 1 to invoke the mercy rule. We saw another grand slam against California Baptist, 5 now in her career, and she's staring at a bases-loaded situation here in the first with nobody out.
And I asked Megan Grant during practice this week, I was asking her, what is making you see the ball so well? And she goes, with some swag, she's like, I'm just doing me. I'm just doing me, and I'm seeing the ball, not thinking too much. And I was like, that's a spot as a hitter that you want to live at. That's a spot where you're able to just see a ball like a beach ball and hit anything and everything. She's just so locked in right now, and she's feeling her swing, and Like you said, the drama is starting early for Megan Grant right now with the bases loaded.
Led UCLA to a 4-0 week last week, just named National Player of the Week, first time in her career.
Surprising that it's only her first award. You think that the type of years that she's put up, I'm surprised to hear when I saw it announced that was just her first award of Player of the Week.
0-2, got her to pop it up, but into foul territory. Went 8 for 11 last week, 2 home runs, both grand slams, 9 runs driven in, and a 1.455 slug percentage. Grant sends one deep into left center. It's a Grant slam. She does it again. Serving up a 3-star Michelin dish here in the first.
You had to see that coming. You had to see that coming. With the bases loaded, she has been seeing the ball so well. And you just see her land and get her hands to the top of the zone there. Coach Lisa's scream is sending me. I love that. Coach Lisa and her just have such a great friendship as well, that they always do extra reps at the end of practice, and it's paying off right here. Coach Lisa's able to see her reap the benefits of all her hard work.
The most lethal bat in the country at the moment. Backs it up in style, a bases clearing mash to blow open this game. As Riley Slimp now steps in, and you could not have drawn it up any better if you're UCLA.
And that's the issue that happens if you let a base hit, let a bunt, give a walk. That's what happens with this Bruin offense. We've seen it so many times here at home. It just always draws up the same. Jess Clements will get on or get walked. Then Savvy Polo will do the same, get a bunt on, hit a double, or get walked. And then it just becomes this massacre of 4 runs put up on a board very quickly.
6th career grand slam, 3rd of the season, and the 3rd in the last week. Slimp takes a changeup for strike 2. And she just sent shockwaves through this Washington Huskies infield. How does Sophia Ramuno and this Huskies team respond? They'd been playing so well, 9 straight games. They were on a high, feeling like this year would be different. They beat this UCLA team. They won the series last year at Husky Softball Stadium, as that is going to be blooped right into the glove of Alexis DeBoer for the first out. But you just have to imagine from a psyche perspective, how do you think this Washington team is taking that?
Like you mentioned, last year's team, they were able to take the series, which they hadn't in a while. And it's a new team with a new identity, a lot of new faces. You have some transfers. You have a lot of people that have been fit into the puzzle pieces that has changed it up. But they were rolling really well. So I would hope that as they enter the dugout after this inning, they're able to take a deep breath, slow the game down, and also just remember what they've done in the past week and that they have momentum on their side. Their bats are still hot. They're still working with a lot of good pieces together, that they just need to string along some hits and not get too far down against a Bruin team that can jump on you quick like they just did.
It doesn't get any easier taking on Kanaya Bragg. She's the 6th UCLA player to be batting over 300 this year. There are no weaknesses in this starting 9. This is inside.
And I had to ask the record breaker, the hit by pitch record breaker. I asked her, I was like, why do you wear number 33? And she said because her mom used to wear number 33 when she played high school basketball, so she's paying tribute to her mom because her mom has helped her throughout her athletic career in every facet.
Well, she's had a knack for being in the wrong place at the right time. Talked about leading the nation in hit by pitches 18. This time the old-fashioned way, 4-pitch walk. As Alexis Ramirez, who's also been stroking it well as of late. 12th straight start for her as the designated player. This is the first 31 games of the season due to injury. As that whizzes outside for ball one. Redshirt sophomore out of Whittier, California. She's restored a lot of balance to this lineup and has allowed a lot of these other players to kind of fit perfectly in their spots. As she takes a strike down the heart of the plate.
Seems like there was a big reshuffling process in the Bruin lineup once Alina Garcia had come out of the lineup. They inserted Caitlin Terry, now bringing back Alexis Ramirez. Like you said, people... seems like they're fitting in better places now in the lineup.
She is struck out, though. First strikeout for Ramuno, and they're 2 away. Good response from Ramuno, junior pitcher out of San Diego. Transfer from Cal Poly, played her first 2 seasons in the Big West with the Mustangs, where she was teammates with Jessica Clements. In fact, Mujica lifts one deep into left, and it hits the scoreboard for the second homer in this inning.
And we actually have her parents right here in front of us screaming, "That's my baby, that's my baby." Excited to see that their daughter was able to get another home run in the same inning.
6 home runs on the year, and she gives UCLA a 6-0 lead. They've not only taken the first punch, they've dealt a haymaker here in the first. And something about this start almost feels a little personal, Charlize.
Yeah, it is like we said, it is a rivalry that there's something a little deeper to it. Washington and the Bruins have faced each other 8 times in the World Series. So you can think that you know that you're going to see this team in the postseason. You know that they're of that caliber. They have the type of talent and the grittiness that it takes to get to Oklahoma City. So throughout the years, you've just known this to be one of the rivalries that you always look forward to see on your TV.
For the Huskies. Certainly deserving of that as well. Again, that flutters up the middle, just over the head of Fisher, but helps when you have Savannah Pollup, a senior, backing you up to make the play. Able to flip it to Grant in time. It's been all smiles, and it helps when you are buttressed by a 6-0 lead. Sophie Mazzola steps in, the lefty hitter. Takes a ball below the zone from Fisher. Softball is such a game of runs. You play quick games in succession. How do you bounce back mentally within a game as well?
And it can all start here with Sophie Mazzola, because she is such a threat on the base paths. She has 12 steals in 12 attempts, and she could really be a spark to start this off. I know there's one out, but she gets on, is able to steal, and get a runner at second base. You can start tacking on those runs that like you said, it's such a fast-paced game, but you need to start somewhere, and you need to start with one. It doesn't have to be a grand slam every single time, although that's the Bruins style of play as of recent. But exactly like this. Being able to get someone on and slow the game down and be able to see good pitches off of Addison Fisher is what they need to focus on in this inning.
Draws the second walk of the contest. As Riley Peshek comes up empty on that swing for strike one.
Seemed like when she stepped into the box, she knew she was going to swing, right?
And that's the interesting thing about the perspective of this UCLA team defensively is they said the one change that they've identified facing a couple of Big Ten teams. Now, again, historically, Washington was like them in the Pac-12, but it's the fact that these Big Ten teams like to go big. They're swinging and attacking the first pitch is something they're not as accustomed to.
Like you said, going big, you see a lot of teams that can swing it big in the Big Ten. So being able to capitalize on those pitches, like you said, that are earlier in a count, you normally get your better pitches earlier in a count because once you get deeper in a count, they'll try to paint the corners and really try to make you bait for something. But capitalizing on that first pitch is really where the money's at.
And Peshek is able to shoot one into left. So connects on her first try, and she sets up the Huskies for their first runner in scoring position. Again, had a chance with Ava Carroll. Call was confirmed that she was caught stealing by Mujica. First base runner in scoring position for the Huskies as we hit the bottom of the lineup with Jade Bubke. Another freshman out of Montgomery, Texas, showing bunt, takes a strike. They rely so heavily on the freshmen. They've got really talented freshman class, at least 5 that were named to various watch lists across multiple outlets. We talked about Alexis DeBoer headlining, but as that is fortunately going to be bunted in front of the screen. UCLA's defense is ready for it. They've got 5 different freshmen that aren't even starting in this lineup but have been productive all year for Washington. As we look at Heather Tarr, the winningest head coach not only in the program history but also Washington athletics history as well. 20 consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament as a head coach, 30 consecutive trips as a program, including a couple of national titles as well under her belt as Fisher strikes out Bubke for out number 2.
That's also why these two programs are so well respected, UCLA and Washington, because they have 2 alpha female coaches that played at their alma mater that are now giving back and have been able to create winningest programs. They have been able to pour out what they know about the game, but also coach and lead teams to where they want to be at the end of the year in June. So it's 2 teams that are capable of getting where they want to be and have done it time and time again.
Paves the outer corner for strike 2. David Carroll drew a walk her first time up. Former community college product, spent the past season with the Mount Hood Saints in the Northwest Athletic Conference. First team All-American in her conference, batting over 500 with 14 home runs before transferring. Fisher's had a couple loose laces in the circle, just tying those puppies up in time. Zola at second, Peshek at first. 0-2, Fisher doesn't get the call, ball 1. I asked Addison about her smiling in the circle. She says typically it's her coping mechanism for dealing with calls that maybe she disagrees with.
That's a sweet coping mechanism.
Correct.
Very sweet.
2-2. This time does not get the call, and I believe Ava Carroll, a little hasty running over to the first base bag, still has one more pitch to deal with.
She had deja vu from her last at bat.
Correct. And the judgment, that is softly rolled to Megan Grant at first. So they strand 2 as the
check-in of where are we and where are we going. And that's something that Coach Kellyanne Perez always talks about in pregame. She always talks about it in practice, that she wants to know exactly where they're going and not get lost in, oh, we won a few games, we don't know how we won, we don't know how we're playing right now. She wants them to be super crystal clear on exactly what they're doing on the diamond and what they're going to produce during practice.
Jessica Clements taking on her former teammate, Sophia Ramuno. Going with the 2-strike technique, and Ramuno missed outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I wonder how many times Jess has gotten an at-bat off of Ramuno. Maybe in scrimmages, maybe in the fall. I'd be curious to know.
I think we're simpatico. I was thinking the exact same thing,
Simpatico.
of course. Sorry, I didn't have the proper accent like you do.
Simpatico. That's so funny.
Sounds a lot better when you say it. But Clements was the Big West Player of the Year, 2-time batting champ, as she doesn't bite on the changeup.
So Ramuno knows what she's capable of, but I just wonder how many times this matchup has happened in practice, or if she knows what pitch she wants to go to against Jess Clements, if she kind of took the reins of, oh yeah, this is what I want against her, this is the combo I want.
Flies it into left, sprinting forward is Carroll, and gets underneath it to make the catch. And again for Clements, it was the first time all year that she got a break, didn't start or play against California Baptist. And a look at Kellyanne Perez. Nonchalantly on one knee, leaning over in the dugout, smiling with Sophia Mujica.
Do you think she's talking about the throwout, or you think she's talking about her home run?
Knowing her, she's talking about the throwout.
I think so too.
Because I even asked her about Caitlin Terry. I said, what do you think Terry was more pleased with, the Grand Slam or her career high in strikeouts? And she said, well, I still think she's more pleased with the strikeout performance. So it shows that whatever your primary role is, that's the one she's going to focus on. Not to mention she was an excellent catcher. So they have that internal relationship.
Coach Kellyanne Perez really does stress the importance of a catcher behind the plate, which not a lot of programs really do, but now after playing underneath a head coach that was a catcher, I finally felt like it was someone that was able to understand all the burdens that you have to kind of carry and pick up, and that leadership aspect. And I'm just so happy to see that Sophia and Maggie have been able to get a taste of that so early on in their career. I only got 2 years of being able to get the knowledge from Coach Kellyanne Perez, but they're able to have it for hopefully a long time and just be able to learn as much as they can from her, because like you said, she was a very good catcher and probably one of the best in the game, and she was able to control a pitcher that knew what she was doing in Lisa Fernandez, but also be her sounding board when she needed to be.
Changing out a couple of the softballs.
It's probably easy to catch a pitcher like Lisa Fernandez, though, because you know exactly where that ball's going, and you know exactly what she wants in certain situations. She's kind of the captain driving that, but it's nice to have a friendship that they have, that now they're coaching together, but playing together, having that friendship and that camaraderie to be able to talk to one another and learn from one another, too. I would have loved to catch Coach Lisa.
Although, as you've talked about, she has a nasty changeup that disappears, so I don't know if it's always easy to catch those.
I would much rather catch them than hit them. In BP,
Fair.
she will humble me with that changeup, but I'd much rather catch it, knowing it's coming, you know?
Although you were a masher. You led UCLA with 20 home runs last year.
It's fun times, fun times.
On the ground, a long throw for Peshek. And Savannah Pola is on with a one-out infield single. That's what's interesting about this year's team is they share some of the components to your senior year's squad in terms of you and Maya Brady pacing the team with 37 home runs. The difference is, as we've talked about, 6 different batters on this UCLA team are batting over 300, and Woolery and Grant aren't the only ones to have to carry that offensive load.
Yeah,
so they can beat you in a number of ways. They can do it with the long ball, as Woolery and Grant have shown, but also with the small ball game.
Yeah, there's dynamic duos that you see with Grant and Woolery, but you also see table setters, whereas Maya was in the #1 position. So she had to do a lot of the table setting, sometimes hitting home runs, and maybe there wasn't runners on. So there was that component, but like you said, a new identity. That's what's so cool about seeing these two teams face off in an outsider's perspective. You see so many new faces and so many new faces taking on really big roles. In the Bruin lineup specifically, Savvy Pola, like you've mentioned, has really risen to the occasion of her final lap and is enjoying the game. I love seeing her smile. She has the cutest little smile, but she's just really enjoying this last year with her girls, and you just see them having a lot of fun out there. And I think that's also what produces really good softball play, I believe, is being able to enjoy your craft and have fun out there and crack a smile here and there and joke around in the dugout. That's always what creates just that high-flowing, high-functioning kind of play.
Woolery takes another changeup, dips below the zone. It's back-to-back walks drawn by Jordan Woolery. That's the growth, that's the evolution of her game. A lot more patient and disciplined in the batter's box as she sets up the table again for Megan Grant. Those two are inextricably linked, came in together. They produced together. A look at the breakdown, 36 home runs between the two of them. Both in the top 4 in the nation in home runs. With that 19th home run, Megan Grant is officially in a tie for #2 with Jasmine Burns, who the Bruins just faced at Ohio State. The only player she's trailing is Bree Ellis, Arkansas's talented player leading the nation with 20 home runs.
And that game last weekend, Megan Grant and Jasmine Burns, it seems like you couldn't stop them from hitting home runs. It was like, it seemed like BP. It was insane. They both were just so locked in and just higher level hitters. I love watching hitters like that because you learn so much from them and you learn so much about mentality. Jasmine Burns just really locking in on a certain cue that she was using that weekend and just really locked into it, and it paid off for her. She was only sat down once in all her contests here in California.
Yeah, Burns hit 2 home runs in game 1, and Megan Grant said, I see what you did, and I'll top that with a walk-off grand slam for her 2nd home run. What a fun series that was. And then the second game, Taylor Tinsley pitched an absolute gem of a complete game, 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. It kind of showcased the dichotomy in the ways that this UCLA team can win, having to outscore you, but then showing off the arm strength and the bullpen. As Lisa Fernandez and Coach Anoy Perez game planning a little bit, having a word with Megan Rabin. 1-2 count to Megan Grant, who mashed a grand slam her first time up, and Sophia Ramuno wisely pitches off the plate to her. And Grant smashes one high, but foul. Even the foul balls feel like they have a chance to clear the yard. The fans very much into this contest early on. The 2-2 digs underneath it and lines one into center. Mazzola is there and makes the catch for out number 2. 5 straight wins against Big Ten opponents for UCLA. They've swept the past 2 Big Ten series against Ohio State in Maryland. They've taken 3 of their first 4. You include Purdue. Season high 4 home runs in game 1 against Ohio State. Riley Slimp now stepping up. Second at bat for the lefty hitter. Fouls it back.
The importance in these games coming up for the Bruins, though, is that they can continue to play great softball. They have the opportunity to host right now with the rankings, the way it looks. And they have been unstoppable at home. So whoever comes into their home, it's going to be an all-out battle. And like you said, they're going to be throwing haymakers. So the importance of them to be able to really lock in this last half of this conference season and going into postseason, it's really important for them to be able to continue riding the momentum that they've created, even as they've been traveling, to be able to put themselves in a position that they know they're going to excel in, which is here at Easton Stadium.
That's just going to escape the netting. 0-2. Flies one into left. On the move is Carroll, and she makes the play. So the Bruins strand 2, but still lead it 6-0. 2, 3, and 4 batters coming up to the plate.
Are really making a splash in this new conference. And just to talk about the strength that the Pac-12 had when it was a conference, there was a lot of teams there that competed like postseason teams. So for them to integrate into a new conference, be 3 of the top 4 teams that are contending in the Big Ten, it just shows you not only the strength that the Pac-12 had, but it also is making other teams play up and be able to play teams that have the caliber to be in the Women's College World Series and gives them that experience during conference. So it's important that they made this transition because they're able to see really what we were matching up against, because you can argue that the Pac-12 was strong and just right there with the SEC. So you can kind of make that suggestion now, seeing how they've integrated to a new conference.
And just to add to that, there's enough empirical evidence to show that the Pac-12 was the most successful. They produced 22 NCAA Division I softball championships, the most by any conference. As Fisher's 2-2, that's sharply hit to third, and Woolery goes across the diamond for out number 1. We obviously know why they're now in the Big Ten for financial reasons, but when it came to softball, to your point, yes, Oklahoma has been so successful in the SEC, Texas, Oklahoma State now as well, and LSU you can add in that, but the Pac-12, they were the torchbearer in softball.
Yeah, champions were made in that conference, and now they're bleeding throughout so many different conferences now and making huge impacts wherever they go.
That was their slogan, the Conference of Champions.
Had to pay a nod to now what is creating a really cool journey for these two teams now being able to go across country, what they never used to do unless they had to go to other schools for postseason. But they normally stayed here in the West Coast, and they were actually able, the Bruins were actually able to visit the monument. They were actually able to do a lot of team bonding in those long road trips, which you weren't really able to do with a 4-game weekend when you would just go up to Seattle. So a lot of new experiences that you get when you're in a new conference, and also able to show the strength that you had.
Bragg loads up, collects out number 2 on the 6-3 put out. To your point, when they took on Maryland, they spent their off day in D.C. exploring the Capitol Hill. They had a social gathering with some UCLA alumni in the area through the University of the California Washington Center. Really cool opportunity to experience not only new weather, but a new environment that they haven't really traveled to.
For sure, new weather from this California. Nice ocean breeze that they have here.
Alicia Flores takes a fastball off the plate for ball 1. talked about the hand warmers that they had to use at Iowa. They also had to bring 2 water bottles, one for cold water and one that they would use to heat up for broth, to have some cups of soup in the dugout to stay warm.
And I kept hearing about the winds that they had. There was about like 20-mile-per-hour winds that were chilling. Like they said that it would go into your bones, and it was like, I can't even imagine that type of cold. I would be like, I would have had to play with a parka on. Like that's insane. But that's the difference that you get when you're able to travel and experience all that different type of weather.
3-1 to Flores, and it misses inside for Fisher. So she's been good at limiting the number of hits, just 3. Has conceded 3 walks. Again, talking to her pregame, so much moxie and confidence in a great way. Proud of the drop ball that she possesses, but she's been working on her rise ball, has talked to Caitlin Terry about that, has talked to Taylor Tinsley about her changeup. She's been improving so much for a player that already came in extremely touted.
It's important to have that moxie too as a pitcher, but not only as a pitcher, but a freshman pitcher, because you're coming into a whole new animal that's D1 softball. You don't really know what to expect. You know that there's going to be great hitters at this level. So to be able to possess that already coming in and have that confidence in what you have and what you can bring to this team is why she's been so successful on the mound.
Giselle Alvarez reached on a fielder's choice to end the first inning. Her first time up, puts one on the ground, one flip to Bragg at second. And a 4-6 flip ends the third inning. Has taken a lot of punishment. Was contact-free her first time up, a 4-pitch walk. As Ramuno is trying to bounce back herself, which she did in the second inning. She retired 3 of the 5 UCLA batters. Left 2 UCLA base runners stranded in the second. And started game 1 against Wisconsin. As Bragg smacks one high and deep into center. Back goes Mazzola, and it stays fair. As the fans got a little restless. Thought they were seeing the 3rd homer of the game, but instead it's the first out. But again, it's not the only way that UCLA has proven they can take down opponents, not just the long ball. As Alexis Ramirez has started to find her swing as of late. She had 1 hit through her first 7 appearances coming back from injury, but since then has had 5 hits in her last 4 games.
And like you said, just trying to find her rhythm as she's coming back. Was not in the lineup at the beginning of the year, and they started inputting her for a pinch hit, then started putting her within the lineup in the DP position, and is just trying to find her feet underneath her, you know, just trying to get those reps. And there's nothing that can mimic game-like reps. You have to be in game, and you really have to feel it out and go through those cues and go through the mechanics that you've been working through in practice and really implement them at a competitive speed.
Ramirez blasts one into left center, but again, it stays fair for Mazzola. She has been busy over in center. As the freshman Sofia Mujica just delivered her 6th home run of the season. A little early for the night-night celebration, but maybe not. Trying to put this game away in the first couple of innings. And she has shown so much mental toughness. Again, probably assumed that she would be the regular starter when she arrived in Westwood. Has split time with Maggie Daniel. But as of late, even though they're trading off, has typically been starting 2 of the 3 games in series, games 1 and 3. Trying to make herself indispensable as that's carrying deep into right, but Flores makes the catch, and it's a quick 3-up, 3-down inning.
The pitches and really just focused on what she does best, which is her drop ball. She does have that confidence knowing that she's able to dot that pitch wherever she wants it. And Coach Kelly Inouye Perez saw that she really felt that from her on the mound against Howard. And you at times need that breakthrough game that you really feel everything moving to continue to propel you with that confidence. And she's been using it and has looked really good in this contest and has done well in her freshman season.
Look back at the second no-hitter thrown by Bruins pitcher this season, the first of Addison Fisher's young career. Special moment for her as she calls for time. And I asked her about this entire season and when was the moment you felt really comfortable in that circle, and she refers back to the game against Tennessee as the first opportunity as she strikes out Charity Saveatasi, but then cites the game versus Howard when she felt like it completely came together and coalesced for her. As that drop ball just so nasty, falls right off the table for her.
And I think it's
signature pitch.
Exactly what she said about feeling like everything came together. That's easy to see from a coaching perspective, also from Coach I. She's able to see everything coming together, the emotion of the game, the frequency of her throwing, the spin, the way that she's able to react after a pitch, whether it's a ball or a strike. She's able to see that, and I think that's why one of those games, Howard in specific, was probably one of her favorite games to date.
Doesn't catch the top of the corner. 3 balls, no strikes. Sophie Mazzola has been fantastic tonight over in center. She takes a strike. Again, another younger freshman on this team, but named to numerous watch lists entering the year. Out of Eureka, Missouri. 292, swings and misses for strike 2. But was 0 for 6 against Wisconsin, starting the first and the third game of the series. Pops it into shallow left. Bragg is backpedaling and holds on for the second out. Riley Peshik accounting for one of the 3 hits for this Washington Huskies group back in the second inning. The starting shortstop. Has started 12 of the last 13 games. Came off the bench in game 2 against Wisconsin as she takes an inside pitch for ball 2. Former Montana Grizzly. Was a first-team All-Big Sky selection last year. Got the call up, though, to make a transfer to Washington. She was fantastic with the Grizzlies. Started 50 games at shortstop. Led her team in practically every single statistical category. Fisher going to work, induces the ground ball. Bragg on the move and cuts her down on a 6-3 putout. So Fisher saw what Ramuno did in the top half of the only one who had that thinking. In fact, Megan Grant said they call her Otani, someone who can do it all, the things that she does for this team. Obviously popped it up that at bat, but has really come into her own offensively. Was injured all of last year when it came to batting. Stuck to pitching as Clements sends one high into right. There's Flores for the second quick out. I think I remember you cringing, Charlize, when I had mentioned that, when I had made that comparison the first time.
Did I? That doesn't sound like me.
No?
I do think that Caitlin Terry's super athletic. And Shohei Ohtani he does some things that are just remarkable. I couldn't do that, so.
You think I went a step too far?
No, I think you know where I was homegrown and you know what team I reside to. So.
Oh, we're going to do this again, huh?
No, I know you know me in that aspect, so I could see why you would think that. But
Fernando Tatis Jr. is not a lefty hitter. It's just not,
or a
it's
lefty
not the
pitcher.
right comparison.
Yeah, so.
Savannah Pola. Third at bat for her, staring at a 1-2 count. Romuno has battled back well since the first. Sails it upstairs, ball 2. Whistles outside and a full count to Savvy. 2 for 2 tonight. Enjoyed the celebratory jog home when Megan Grant pushed her across. Got her to pop up in the infield again. Alvarez holds on just on the fringe of the circle. So Romuno has been really impressive, has retired the last 8 UCLA batters. Out of Bothell, Washington takes a strike. So Bubke was struck out in the second, but short leash for her. '30th appearance. Made an appearance in the second game against Wisconsin. Bottom of the lineup, takes a change-up that just falls outside. Fisher strikes her out, and a 2-3 put out for extra assurance. Third punch out of the night for Addison Fisher on that nasty drop ball inside.
See that movement, how it tails in, it runs in on a righty? That's so hard to hit. So hard to see, too.
Huskies desperate for some hits at the top of the lineup. Used to playing on the road, though. In fact, they didn't play a home game until March 14th for their Big Ten opener against Oregon. It's the first 5.5 weeks they traveled on the road as Carroll thought about that slapping technique but took a strike. The Dogs traveled almost 1,100 and 200 miles, 11,200 miles over the first 5 weeks as Carroll lifts one, and it's just going to escape the glove of Clements into center. And a lead off, or a stand-up double, pardon, here in the 5th.
Right under her glove. She had a good beat on the ball. She was running for it. It seemed like she would have dove a second earlier. She would have gotten underneath it.
Jammed Load up DeBoer. That's the player you'd want up, though, if you're Washington, batting 367. Fisher has bottled her up, though, tonight. 0 for 2. A couple ground outs, which is what she does. Later swing, so read that a little bit better. Was falling behind 1-2. One of the best freshmen in the Big Ten, leads the conference amongst freshmen in home runs and RBIs. Lays off 2-2.
Sure, Coach Tar's excited about what she's able to put in her freshman campaign. At times you just look at your freshmen and you just want them to enjoy their first year. They don't really know what they're getting into, but with the freshmen that we've seen from both teams, they've really been able to produce and be really big heartbeats for both of the teams, which you don't normally see all the time. You normally see that from a senior or junior standpoint. But having that come from that young blood coming up from travel ball just shows that the travel ball experience has been able to prepare them for what they're going to face in college.
And that's why in so many ways this Washington team and this UCLA team are kind of constructed similarly. Both have a trio of arms that have produced throughout the year, but also they both have tremendous freshman classes, as Mujica and Fisher call for time. And DeBoer is one of those freshmen where she could start potentially on this UCLA lineup if you were to flip the jersey. So it just goes to show you how good she has been. They've relied on her offense throughout the entire season. That's the main difference between these two teams, is UCLA has a couple more elder statesmen that are a little bit more experienced in the batter's box. DeBoer has been carrying the day. That just misses inside for a full count.
Yeah, both these teams are able to pull recruits really well to their programs, and top-level recruits at that.
DeBoer able to lace one and drops it into left center. It will cut off Ava Carroll at third as Clements got the throw in quickly. But for the first time tonight, the Huskies have a runner 60 feet away.
You see Jordan and Megan laughing there. There was two cuts in the same position. That was so funny. Great piece of hitting there by DeBoer. Wasn't trying to do too much with that pitch that's in a really uncomfortable spot. You see right here. Jordan cut off Megan Grant.
Those two share a different bond.
A really good bond, too.
Really good bond. And it was fitting that Jordan was right in front of Grant, considering their lineup in the batting order. As Heather Tarr is bringing a pinch runner over at first. Addie Craig. Fisher pours in a strike to Jaden Glab. 1 for 2 with a base knock in the first. You can see that pitch count climbing up for Fisher. There were a season high 109 pitches in her last full start, Game 3 against Maryland. Takes it in the dirt for ball one. Aiden Glab, the first Iowan to play softball at Washington. On the 1-2. Again, it runs inside, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Top 10 high school recruit. And that got a piece of her leg. And now it's a little bit dangerous here. You load up the bases for Alicia Flores, and again, Fisher smiling it off a bit. This is the loudest the Washington faithful have been here at Easton Stadium.
They see the opportunity ahead of them. Could make it a very close ball game if they're.
Deuces the ground ball, Fisher to home. They record the first out on the force play. So they trade places with Flores and Carroll, who is sent home. But DeBoer moves up the conveyor belt to third. They've got a couple of pinch runners in there.
I feel like Alicia.
Craig is at third, coming in to pinch run for DeBoer.
You're okay. Alicia Flores really let Addison Fisher off the hook there, I think. Swung at the first pitch. There was a lot of drama. She had just hit a batter, trying to go to her money pitch. You've seen that she's thrown a lot of pitches, like you said.
Alvarez lifts one deep into center, and Clements is there to make the. But she does such a good job of applying so much pressure on opposing pitchers to have to hit their spots.
Although she doesn't, like you said, in those moments doesn't get the hit that'll win the game or that big explosive home run, she does pose such a threat just with the amount of RBIs she's able to produce in that 3 spot. She's always able to bring in her table setters, Savvy Pola and Jess Clements, and she's always found a way to produce those runs. And sometimes that's even more of a silent threat rather than just a jarring home run that you see, which she's also able to produce. But in that 3 spot, she's just able to have consistency and also complements Megan Grant very well with 2 swings that are very different, but it's hard to pitch around the both of them.
Prompts a visit from Lance Glasso, 15th season as the pitching coach, also an assistant coach with the U.S. national team. Heather Tarr is the head coach of the U.S. women's national team. Jen Sowling sitting right next to Heather Tarr, those two having a word.
Yeah, some great softball players, a lot of softball IQ. Jen Sowling is one of the best in the business when it comes to mentality of hitting. She has so many great nuggets for hitters to learn, and she was one of the best to be able to swing the bat for the Canadian national team and did an amazing job in her uniform in her collegiate time, and just a really great duo to lead this Washington team, but great on their own, in their own softball career.
On the payoff, Woolery slices one into right, and Flores barely has to move to make the first catch. And to your point, 2 times for Sowling competed on the Olympic stage, former teammates with Danielle Lowry and Victoria Hayward. Former Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year at Washington as Megan Grant back up for her 3rd at-bat. And the lefty goes after the first ball, sails it back and foul. Coach Anoy Perez has been so impressed with Megan Grant's ability to move on from a season that, in her standard, wasn't where she wanted it to be last year. Kind of had a down year, and the fact that she's bounced back this season, is having a career year, has has really made an impression on this coaching staff. Has been working a lot with Dr. Mondo, their mental performance coach. Just trying to work on that mentality. She takes the changeup for ball 3 and not allow the moment to get too big for her, which is something that she was doing a little bit last year.
I feel like she's using that in the big moments too. The bigger the moment, the more runners on, she's able to really produce with those grand slams.
Drives one into right center, and it's gone again. 2 homers in another game for Megan Grant. She is inevitable. 7-0 UCLA. The 4th multi-homer game of her career for the slugging queen in Westwood.
She just can't get enough, huh? She just loves that number 2. 2 home runs, a grand slam in each game. Feels like I watch the same game over and over again when I'm watching Megan Grant hit.
It's felt like deja vu watching her. Just outstanding. She might have to buy a gift basket to Dr. Mondo and whoever else has helped her get into this mental state. Obviously, the credit goes to her, of course.
I would say Coach Lisa as well. They're always together after practice. Coach Lisa's like her best friend. She calls her her friend whenever she sees her. And someone who has that same mentality as a player in Lisa Fernandez has met her match with someone that loves to outwork, and I don't like to say workout. Megan Grant outworks people. She's always at the field. She lives, eat, breathes softball. And I think Coach Lisa being able to coach a player so much like herself that had a lot of pride in her work, in her preparation before a game. It's really nice to see them two be able to have that relationship, and it's honestly a synergy between the two of them.
Laces one into center and squeezing the glove underneath it to Mazzola to make the second out. Big clutch catch by the freshman in center.
Riley Slimp hasn't gotten a lot of payout in this game, but she's striking the ball well. I see her going through her at-bats, although not all of them are exactly the way that she wants to hit them. She's striking the ball relatively well, in my opinion.
Kanaya Bragg takes a fastball for strike one.
And so did Kanaya. She was only feet short of leaving the park in her earlier at-bat.
And obviously, with this being the 5th inning, the Bruins are able to tack on another run here. They could turn off the lights. As Bragg takes a ball below the zone.
It's also something that this team has broken records for, is the mercy rule wins that they've been able to induce.
Bragg softly floated it into left. Ava Carroll is there to make the lead. And still prevent Washington from putting up runs on the board. It's now 7-0 lead, courtesy of the second home run of the night for Megan Grant. Chopper to short, and Bragg mistimes the pick. It sneaks underneath her, 6th hit of the game for the Huskies. Although that should go down as the error, first error of the night for UCLA. Bragg doesn't make many of those, as Fisher has officially clocked in 100 pitches tonight. That was the first time that Seva Atasi had reached base. And for right now, they have it home scoring, and they've listed it as the 6th hit of the game as opposed to the first error. I know that Bragg would prefer that. Regardless, it's a play that she's been able to make. She's been so good over at short, especially since Alina Garcia has gone out. Lost for the season due to injury. Sophie Mazzola digs back in. Whistles off the plate, ball 2.
I was able to ask Coach Lisa Fernandez what she thought about Kanaya Bragg moving over from third base to shortstop, and she says, I have to give credit to her from moving from second to third.
A line to Pola, the throwback, and they get the twin killing. That was all savvy from the senior. Just an unfortunate situation for Washington, as they're now 2 away here in the 6th. Fisher gets her to swing.
Just seems like everything's going for the Bruins, and Huskies really can't catch a break, but really great play by Savvy to be able to get those.
Taking on the sophomore Peshek, in number 2 fielding percentage in the nation for UCLA. They've been so sturdy, and it's eased a lot of the pitchers in the circle. Kind of goes both ways, where they know that the defense has their back, and the defense knows that this offense can pop off at any time, as that is lined right into the glove of Bragg. So Addison Fisher and the defense. It was the 11th time that a Bruin has collected 20 home runs in a campaign.
It's a good number, but she has a lot of time left. So.
Yeah, a lot more runway.
Yeah, so she's definitely got some more in her. I know she does.
It's crazy that this UCLA team came in averaging 1.6 home runs per game, on pace for its best mark since its 2010 NCAA title season. They set the program record for home runs with 108. They've got 70 now on the season this year. To your point about the runway, they still have an entire month plus of baseball or softball to play with.
You think about postseason as well. You're facing new teams. The energy's a lot higher. I feel like there's more home runs hit in postseason, in my opinion, just because the moments are so much bigger. There's a lot more on the line. You're so much more focused. So although conference is a place where you're going to see a ton of home runs, as Megan Grant has shown, I felt like in postseason last year, you saw so many home runs, so many.
Ramirez is struck out looking. Good pitch from Ramuno. Just the second strikeout of the game for her, but the second time that she has sat Ramirez. Pitch is typically the changeup, but brought the heat that time. And Washington also has a trio of pitchers who will feature this weekend that have been really good. We haven't seen Stevie Hansen, the senior out of Norco, or Morgan Reimer, another freshman as Mujica comes up empty on that pitch right there for 0-2. Ramuno came in with the lowest ERA of 1.87. And to her credit, really since the first inning, she has put the lid back on this UCLA offense.
And I think her biggest mistake in that first inning was not being as convicted, although Jess Clements put down a really great bunt. You couldn't really do much about that, but the conviction that she could have had with Savvy and with Jordan, I think would have changed a little bit of the at-bat against Megan Grant and just how she was able to really tear the game open, and then following that with Sophia's home run as well.
She has struck out 2 in a row for the first time tonight. So if you were her battery mate in the first inning, how would you have changed up some of the pitch calls if you were sensing these UCLA batters were hitting it pretty well?
I think it would have came before the pitch calls. I think it would have been prior to game, before we went out. I would have told her something like, we need to be very strong with these pitches, stick to our plan, and it would have been almost like trying to create confidence in her to be able to attack them rather than to shy away, give up a walk, give up a hit on a pitch that's not your best pitch. I think that would have been more of the conversation that I would have been having with my pitcher facing such a prominent team offensively.
Over 100 pitches for Ramuno as well. Two outs here in the 6th. Terry was hit by the pitch, first time that she's reached today, and Clements also either got the elbow close to the choke of the bat. Bruins have a chance to end this contest here in the 6th, as again it prompts another visit into the circle. Again, these two teams will get back right out here into the diamond tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That'll take place on FS1, nationally televised game with Nick Cope and Riot Travel Piece. And then we're back here on Sunday for a matinee, the third and final game of the series at 12 o'clock on Big Ten Plus. What an opening statement, though, from this UCLA team, continuing to ride that offensive wave. I mentioned game 1 against Ohio State was a season-high 4 home runs, as Pola sends it foul. Tonight, they've got 3. Another classic, productive game from Savannah Pola, 2 for 3. On the ground to second, and Bubke makes the play to record hers. Despite all the confidence that she possesses, she really asks a lot of questions. That's one of the things that Coach Inoue Perez loves about her. She's inquisitive, wants to learn and get better. Not always something you see from younger players. And with those pitches, by the way, she now has a new career high in pitches thrown, 112 and counting here tonight, as Bubke is back in. We saw a pinch hitter come in, Gabby Toney, the freshman, her last time up. The result was the same, though, both strikeouts. Fisher can't paint the outside corner, 2-2. 6 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, but the most important stat, 0 runs for Addison Fisher here tonight. Jammed her up, and we'll do it again. Fisher sends her fishing to begin the 7th.
Dirty, dirty pitch to end that at bat. That was a nice pitch right there.
Dominates the lower half of the zone. It's interesting, Charlize. I remember you saying the first thing you noticed about her was her spin. How have you seen that spin develop over the course of this season?
I think she understands when she needs to use more of it. And I think she also, that spin has created a lot of inconsistency in balls and strikes, but she's learned how to continue to stay in the zone. You've seen her be able to pound the zone. She's limiting the amount of walks that she had in most of her outings in comparison to some of her first outings. And you would see sometimes her drop ball that is so good on the inner half to a righty at times hit the batter and kind of just get away from her in a sense. And she's really limited that. Although we have seen a few girls that have been hit, she has been able to really control that. And I think that's what's making it harder for people to be able to hit a ball. A ball with a lot of spin, we call a heavy ball. So it almost feels heavy off of our bat because you aren't able to hit a solid part of the ball to the barrel. So she creates such a heavy ball for hitters to hit, and it doesn't really get to go far. And you've seen it's created a shutout in this instance right here.
Walks Ava Carroll, who has managed to put a dent into the performance. She's reached base 3 of her 4 times, 2 via the walk. Was thrown out at home back in the 5th inning. They need that rally horse, though, a little bit more, as Alexis DeBoer finally connected for her first hit of the series in the 5th inning. Began 0 for 2. DeBoer is just able to shoot it into the gap in left. Bragg and Jordan Woolery couldn't stay in front of it. And a good start with 1 out here in the 7th for Washington. So DeBoer now 2 for 4, evening up her batting average.
Good old 500.
Yeah. Jaden Glab, 11 home runs on the season. And takes a strike. From Dubuque, Iowa. 39th straight start. A 1-pitch runs inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Again, this Washington team coming into tonight had been playing their best softball of the year. And that is smoked fair for the time being. That's going to score Carroll. No, I had a feeling it stayed foul, but smart third base coaching from Heather Tarr saying, why not? Waving her home. But we're going to do it again. And it just at the last minute, a great angle. Provided. Woolery can't make the throw. Lay down the third base side. And the bases stay loaded again now here in the 7th. And we're going to look at this. Did Grant, it looked like the foot of Glab They have stepped on that bag first, but they're going to look at it. And again, they called it on the diamond and out. There has to be enough evidence to overturn the call. They seem pretty carefree, pretty confident in what that call is going to be. This is massive. This changes the game. Either keeps this a 1-out situation, bases loaded, or a 2-on, 2-out situation here in the 7th.
Definitely harder to see from that angle. They're looking at it. They should look at the angle behind first base.
Second time the umpires have gone to the VAR. Saw it in the first. Here's another angle. Ooh. Did that left foot. Man. I don't know if the ball's in the full glove of Grant by the time the cleat hits the bag, but
I think that's why Megan Grant's face after she caught it was like, oh. I think she thinks the same as you, Jenna.
And Megan Rabin overturns the call. Jaden Glab is safe. Carroll moves on to third. DeBoer advances to second. One last look. Grant did all that she could. Speedy base running from Glab. And now bases loaded. 1 out here in the 7th. And Alicia Flores. And they keep showing that rally horse. And justifiably so. 25 runs driven in, 5 home runs for Flores. Fifth-year outfielder, began her career with Boise State. Feels like really actually began it in Oklahoma. Then Boise State, and now Washington. Has yet to hit a grand slam in her career. Takes a fastball inside for ball 2.
Smart of Edison Fisher to stay inside on her. She hasn't really been able to get a hold of the inside pitch really well, and that's Addison's best pitch. So I love where she's throwing it, although it's not on the plate. She's trying to see if she can bait her to swing at one of her pitcher's pitches. Smart game move by her. As a hitter, I am looking for dead center on the plate. In this count, 2-1.
What kind of pitch do you think Sofia Mujica is going to call right here?
You just saw a changeup. I think they're trying to throw off the timing. I think she would call maybe a changeup, or Coach Kelly and Noe Perez calling them would maybe call another changeup. You don't want to fly out into a situation where you're giving in on a pitch that's off speed, but I'd be looking for a hard pitch on the plate to hit here.
Good pitch from Fisher, but just fouled off.
And Addison hasn't given
alive.
in. She hasn't given in on that inner half at all. She's not going on the plate. Challenged, wanting to see if she'll bait, and she did in that instance. And I think it's fair to say she could go change up here.
130 pitches thrown. Flown into right. Terry swivels back. It will score Ava Carroll as the Huskies push across their first run of the contest. Bruins collect a coveted second out, and it's 7-1 on the sac fly. And pardon, Riley Pinedo actually came in to replace Terry in right. She makes the catch, though, for the second out. As Giselle Alvarez, who I mentioned was clutch against Wisconsin just last week. Hit the game-tying 2-run homer in dead center in the bottom of the 4th. Propelled the Huskies to a Game 3 victory, 0 for 3 tonight. If you're Addison Fisher, you can focus solely on her, knowing you have 2 outs. Even if you do give up a long ball, you still have a comfortable lead. Alvarez blasts one into right center. And this is a new ball game, 7-4. Sixth home run of the year for the California kid.
And I was just going to comment on Giselle's home run last weekend. It was a towering home run, and this one was a little more to right field, but the other one was to center field, and it was a lot like this one. It was a towering home run. You knew it was leaving the park. It was electric for their team. Now I got to see one in person, but she connected really well to that ball right there.
And how much confidence does that ignite into this Washington team for the rest of the series? You go from staring at a 7-0 deficit, you can't generate anything, to yes, you're still very much behind in this game, but for the rest of the series, that has to be a huge confidence builder.
I think it also reminds you that you have this in you, but you need to bring it from the start of the game, especially from a team like this. There's some games that you can get away with allowing the game to draw out till the end of the game and then come up with some late game heroics. But with a team like this, you don't want to be coming from such a big deficit at the end of the game because the chances diminish, but it's still there. The chance of it happening is still there, and you have a team that can produce that. But again, I think it's a learning opportunity for them to think, wow, we could have strung this along a little earlier in the game.
Seva Tassi with 2 straight hits. Huskies need at least one player aboard to get the tying run at home plate. Sophie Mazzola. 0-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Fisher, no, 2-2. Can't believe the call.
Straight up challenge here, right here.
Fisher wins game 1 for UCLA. Puts the worry to bed as the Bruins claim the 7-4 lead, the 12th win of the season for the freshman in the circle as the Bruins take game 1 of the series. And it got a little dicey down the stretch, Charlize, but they extend their win streak to 10. They've won 20 of their last 21 games, and they stay red hot and perfect here at home.